Hey everyone,
I'm Tim, and I've just finished a 9-month odyssey around Latin America. Now I'm reopening my diaries, and this time I'm bringing you along with me. Week by week, country by country, all the colors, all the craziness, all the food, all the music, and all the splendor. 9 months when each morning was a new adventure. The road was my companion, and Latin America cast its spell on me. This is my Latin America Diaries. Welcome to the most magical, colorful, joyful, and dreamlike experience. This is Latin America Diaries. And today we begin in Mexico City, the capital city of Mexico, the largest city in North America, the oldest capital city in North America, and the second largest Spanish-speaking city in the world. Now, if you would like to follow along with the rest of this series, please make sure that you like this video, subscribe to my channel, and hit the bell icon to be notified when I upload new videos. And if you like what you're seeing, please don't forget to share my content and tell your friends about it. It would really mean a lot to me. So today we are beginning in Mexico City. On the 26th of October 2024, I touched down in what would be my first city in the Americas, obviously my first Latin American city, and my first truly Spanish-speaking city. I remember as I made my way bleary-eyed through passport control and customs. I remember as I ordered my Uber to take me into the city center. And I remember in the Uber on the way to the hostel in Roma Norte, I remember messaging my mom and sending her a picture telling her that the way in from the airport looked distinctly like Sydney's Parramatta Road. That's not a compliment, by the way. And of course, I also remember checking into the hostel home where I would stay for the next week. It was a bit cramped, but it was comfortable. I would wake up every morning at about 6 o'clock and work for a couple of hours every morning. And if you're wondering, that's actually how I managed the trip. I was working as a digital nomad, and I would work in the morning, taking advantage of the time difference between Pakistan and Mexico. And then I would go out sightseeing in the afternoon. Now, full disclosure here, I was not completely impressed with Mexico City at the beginning. And I think that that stems from me not really having an idea of what Mexico City would be like, and also partly because my idea of Mexico, my concept of Mexico, was really shaped by the stereotypical ideas of jungles, beaches, and Mayan ruins. And so I think there were two things going on here. One was me not really knowing what to expect, and the other one was a bit of the Paris effect, where your expectations are possibly a bit unrealistic. So I found myself walking the streets on that first day, not really impressed. It was quite big, grey, and just featureless, I found. However, a very good friend of mine in Australia, but she's originally from Mexico City, Paulina, put me in touch with a friend of hers back in CDMX. His name is Jesus, and he took me out for tacos that first afternoon. And it was really great to actually have my first meal in Latin America with a friend. And it really helped me find my feet. I've actually recently begun to appreciate just how important that meal was, and I told Paulina just a couple of weeks ago that now that I've finished the trip, I recognize how wonderful it was to be in a new city but have a friendly face that I could sit down and have my first meal with. It really sort of anchored me in a city in which I felt a bit lost for the first day. And Jesus, if you're watching this, thank you so much, because I don't know if I've ever really conveyed to you how much that meant to me. So thank you. But Mexico City was a revelation in another way. It was extremely colorful, and especially in the lead up to El Dia de Muertos, the Day of the Dead, I was walking towards the Zocalo, which is the historic center, on one of my first days there, and stopping in at cathedrals and markets and looking at the small colorful altars that were being set up all throughout the city. And if you want to know more about the Day of the Dead, make sure that you tune in to my next vlog, because it's going to explain it in much more detail. Walking towards the Zocalo, I couldn't help but notice the similarities to grand old European cities. Pedestrianized zones, grand old colonial buildings, crumbling facades. And that's a recurring theme of the Mexican capital.
we have reached the central plaza of Mexico City, and this is basically ground zero. This is the center of where the modern Mexican Republic that we see today began from. And to my left is the Central Cathedral of Mexico City. And I don't know if we're going to be able to go in there, but I will try. So we were allowed inside the cathedral, however, videography is not allowed inside the cathedral. So instead I got lots of pictures and I'm about to show you them right now. This cathedral dates back to 1573 and is built on almost the exact same spot where once stood the central holiest Aztec temple. In fact, many of the bricks from the destroyed Aztec temple were used in the construction of the cathedral. Now we have arrived at the Templo Mayor, which was the center of Aztec civilization here in central Mexico. Now, this was the point that the Aztec people believed was the center of the entire universe, and there was once a temple on this site. However, when the Spanish colonizers arrived, they demolished it and built a cathedral next door, which, to be honest, is pretty on brand for Europeans. There is still something to see here. We are still able to see the ruins of it. However, it is just the ruins of what was once the center of the Aztec universe. In fact, it was only in 1978 that a lot of these ruins were rediscovered by utility workers, and the decision was made to remove the colonial buildings that had been built on top of them and instead expose the ruins for public exhibition. In fact, it is still being excavated today. I knew at this point that I was only really experiencing Mexico City on a superficial level, so I decided to enlist the help of a guide. More on that in a minute. But on the way back to my hostel, I stopped in at the Museo de Chocolate. So what I've just been told is that cacao, which is the basis of cocoa, began life in this area of Mexico and then after colonization spread out across the globe and grows obviously in equatorial regions. So anywhere in that yellow band that you can see, I guess the most famous producers of this would be probably Colombia, Ghana, Indonesia. So much like for coffee and tea, which have spawned their own bunch of, utensils for the production of the drink. So, obviously with coffee, there are French presses and espresso pots and mocha pots and espresso machines. For tea, there are teapots and then, the ones like infusion bowls and that kind of thing. For chocolate, similar things were produced or are produced, and especially in places like Mexico where chocolate isn't just... I sort of feel like in a lot of Western countries, if you disagree with me, comment and mention it in the comments, but I feel like in a lot of Western countries, hot chocolate is relegated often to second tier status on menus. It's like for people who don't drink coffee or for children. But it's serious. It's a serious drink in this part of the world. And as a result, like the mocha pots and the teapots, it has spawned its own range of kitchen utensils. So this is once I've peeled it, it looks like this. And then you're saying just try a little bit, but it's too bitter to actually go for the whole thing. This is basically the entire pod, yeah? So
no. This is the fruit that are inside of this.
Okay.
These are inside of these fruits that is called mazorca de cacao.
Okay.
Inside of this we have already like 30 to 50 beans.
Okay.
But this is right. This is more bigger in real life. It's
Okay.
like a papaya.
I
and
see.
the most small is like a mango.
Wonderful. Okay.
And the fresh fruit are like, the colors are like red, green, or yellow.
Interesting. Okay, so this is like a completely dried one then.
Yeah.
So time to do the taste test. It's bitter at the end.
Yeah.
Actually, like at the start, it tastes chocolatey and sort of creamy, but at the end it's really bitter and dry. Yeah. I like it though because I like dark chocolate.
Yeah.
So yeah, that's really good. Chocolate, it held a really important part or a really important place in traditional Mexican or pre-Hispanic Mexican society. And a lot of that was actually to do with celebration. So this was a society that, at that time, really disapproved of drunkenness generally, and so chocolate was considered a much better alternative to the alcoholic drinks that were available at the time, and as a result, it was used in the same way that maybe people nowadays in Western countries would use champagne, which is like, you know, at celebrations, and like a cup of cocoa or cacao would be offered to a bride and a groom at their wedding ceremony, for example. It would be drunk by priests. So it held like a really important position in the society. It was almost like a spiritual, religious thing. It wasn't just a drink. Here, we're learning about aromas. So we have, I'm assuming mint, orange, and banana, which you know is a banana from me. But let's see what happens when we touch these, shall we? We're allowed to taste or smell these ones, so let's see. I'm going to pump this. Here we go. Yeah, wow, actually that's really good. I wasn't expecting that. I mean, yes, of course it's mint, but it's like a really fresh mint. Impressive, actually. I like that one. Okay, I think this is the orange one, so let's see. It's actually that, it's not just orange, but it's like that really citrusy, like when you get the zest of the orange peel. Love that. Okay. I will subject myself to the banana one for YouTube, not for any other reason. Yeah, no. And actually, I'm sorry, just I can't do banana. It's banana. You know what it is? It actually it smells like those banana candies that you get in Australia. I don't know if they exist anywhere else, but they're like those small, soft, disgusting. So I've just ordered a chocolate maya, which is the traditional chocolate which was drunk in Mexico, or what is now Mexico, in the time before colonization. So like the original Mayan chocolate. Apparently it's got a bit of chili in there. It's made with water, not milk. But yeah, I felt that it was important to try it. It would be rude not to.
Chile.
Perfecto, muchas gracias. Cheers. First of all, the nose. Earthy. Really, really earthy, actually. It's sort of like, I don't know if I'd even call it muddy or something, actually. It's like it smells really not like the sweet chocolate that we often get from supermarkets in in English-speaking countries. Let's taste it. Interesting. So it's semi-sweet. It's not bitter. Yeah, it's not bitter like dark chocolate. It's semi-sweet. I'd say that whatever is sort of like half bitter in there is kind of offset by the fact that they've added chili into there. So it's sort of like the chili, I guess, compensates or nullifies any bitterness in there from the cacao in there. The other thing which is interesting is that it is made with water, not with milk, and that is traditional, and that's actually what surprised me. If you watch that reaction again, when I drank it, I was surprised at how quickly it sort of like slipped over the tongue, so to speak. And yeah, it's but it is really nice. It's very different to, I guess, what a hot chocolate is in many countries, and I can understand how that hot chocolate is often sort of, you know, relegated to dessert, children's drink status, whereas this was once considered like the champagne of the pre-Hispanic Mexicans, because it's like a brew, but it's delicious though. Good morning. I'm here with Saul from Divercitours.
Yes.
And he is going to be taking me around the center of Mexico City today for a bit of context about this amazing city. How long have you been doing Divercitours?
I have been doing the tour like my business. In 2019 I started as a hobby, and then in 2021 I took it like very seriously, creating the website, Facebook account, Instagram account, all of that.
I can't wait to share more of Mexico City with you and what Saul shares with me. So let's go, shall we?
Okay.
First stop was the Palacio de Bellas Artes, an iconic building that now hosts a fine arts museum.
Now, this is the finest arts palace, or Palacio de Bellas Artes. The dome that you see on top, the dome was a gift from the French government, and it's a dome created by Tiffany Glass. It's hand painted.
Seriously?
Yes. Yeah.
And it was designed that way.
Exactly, on purpose, because when they started this, that's when they finished
The tower, yeah.
They started with that tower.
That's crazy, the way that kind of lines up.
Mm-hmm.
And then hello, churros.
Is it cinnamon? Yeah. Churros time.
Very good.
We stopped past some really beautiful bakeries. But this wasn't where I bought my Mexico City birthday cake from. And then we entered the Casa de los Azulejos, an old building which houses several eateries in gorgeous vintage surroundings, but is most remarkable for its stunning tiled facade, facing out onto Avenue Cinco de Mayo.
La vista, ¿verdad? Andan sacándose foto también.
Sí.
Ay, qué padre.
Okay, I understand why you didn't want me to look there. This is spectacular. Oh my god.
Yep.
How do people know? I mean, this isn't a tourist attraction, right? It's
No,
just
you see
like-
only tourists. Sorry, only locals.
Yeah, yeah.
So if think about 120 years ago, when people they used to have parties here.
Yeah.
This was a mansion.
These old buildings are simply magnificent, and they're right here in the center of the city. I had walked past them the previous day and only admired their pretty but superficial exteriors. I really love the architecture here. It's unlike anywhere else I've really seen or experienced. We then had coffee and pastries on the Balcón de Zocalo, where we heard the bells being rung from the main cathedral. Before heading back down into the city past the Aztec ruins.
Yeah, the
That was
pyramids
it, yeah.
The pyramids that are in the middle, those were the pyramids that we use for the sacrifices. This one is the bird with the feathers.
Yeah,
one of the
yeah.
most important gods that we have here in this society.
Yeah.
And it's very similar to the ones that we have from the Teotihuacanos. It's
Okay.
the same one as the Aztecs. They have different names.
Yeah.
As you see, the red color, that is still original color from 500 years ago, because the
Wow.
city
Yeah.
already has more than 500 years.
Yeah.
And then down into the subway station, where there is a model of the main square showing the colonial buildings before excavations. What Saul provided was invaluable. It was a context and filling in the blanks about Mexico City, a city which was my gateway to Latin America, but a city in which I was really lost on my first couple of days. In that way, now that I think about it, Saul's tour of downtown CDMX was actually an excellent introduction to my entire trip. I do wonder if my trip going forward might have been a bit different if my experience in the first city that I went to in Latin America had remained superficial. I've included the details for Saul and Divercitours in the video description below, and I highly recommend that you engage him if you're headed to the Mexican capital. That night, I headed out for dinner at a lovely restaurant called La Capital with a friend of mine, Omar. The next morning, I headed out for a walk to Bosque de Chapultepec, or Chapultepec Gardens as it's often called in English. It's a huge garden which acts a bit like the lungs for the city. That brought me to the Anthropological Museum, which everyone had told me was a must-see in Mexico City. And I can confirm it was. This was the kind of context around Aztec and Mayan culture that I could have done with on day one. The costumes, the art, I learned so much in such a short time, and I would truly recommend a visit here to anyone coming to Mexico, and I'd recommend doing it earlier in their trip. I kept walking and I made my way over to the upmarket district of Polanco. Now, anyone who knows Mexico City knows that this is quite a long walk, but I loved it. Now, in Polanco, I made my way to the Soumaya Museum. The Soumaya Museum is a private art gallery established by Mexico's richest person, Carlos Slim. He named it after his late wife. And if you think that Soumaya sounds like an Arabic name, you would be correct. Carlos Slim and his late wife are both, or were both, of Lebanese descent. The museum hosts several original diaries of Khalil Gibran and pieces by Salvador Dali. That day, I met up with an old student of mine who has since become a friend, Gloria. After that, I headed to Plaza Garibaldi, the home of Mexico City's mariachi culture. I took the train there on the Mexico City Metro, and while I was on the metro, I took these pictures of the unique station logo system which is in operation. As a mass rapid transit system which was being built in a developing country in the 1960s and 70s, unique solutions needed to be invented to overcome problems such as illiteracy. To ensure that the system remained accessible to everybody, a logo was assigned to each station for easy identification. These logos are still employed in the now expanded metro system. I resurfaced near Garibaldi metro station. Now, a lot gets said about safety in Mexico City, and I can say that I felt safe most of the time while I was there, but the area around Garibaldi metro station was probably the only place that I felt unsafe. So I made a beeline for Plaza Garibaldi and I chose a restaurant, sat down and ordered a drink. Mariachi is a type of folk music from Mexico, specifically from Jalisco, a state northwest of Mexico City. You would have heard of its state capital, Guadalajara. I have to admit that I don't really have an appreciation for it, but also what I realized was that Plaza Garibaldi is best enjoyed at a table where you're a few drinks in and seated with a large group of friends. And also, if you know Spanish. Mine wasn't quite there just yet. So I think it is now. If anyone is interested in coming with me to Mexico City and organizing a mariachi night, please let me know in the comments. My last night in Mexico City was spent hanging out with friends with the spectacular view of the city center at the Esquina Reforma rooftop bar. And then later we went around to this little place, El Kiosquito, around the corner, to taste and talk about Mexican food. It was my friend Andrea's idea to go to Esquina for the sunset view, and another friend, Usman, aka Habibi Mexicano, was with us too. Usman is a Pakistani who lives in Mexico. Pakistan? Mexico? Of course he's a friend of mine. And so we caught up on a call just a few weeks ago. What took you to Mexico to begin with? Because it's not a common place for Pakistani people to go to, even on a holiday or even for to live there.
Yeah, bro, it's a good question. Actually, you know what? One of my family member, he came to Mexico back in 90s. So he thought, he stayed here for 6 years, man.
Okay.
So he was like, Mexico is a good place. It's nearby. The people, as well in Pakistan, they have a misconception that some people think that Mexico is a part of United States. And well, some people say that, no, it's a other country. It's a different place. But it's, for my opinion, man, Mexico is so much like a country that people should know about, The people know nothing about this country. They always think about the news and the chismes,
What do you love about Mexico?
Man, it's a tough question. You should ask me what I don't like about Mexico.
Fair.
Because it's, you know what? I just want to say one thing, because a lot of people ask me this question. Hey, Habibi, what do you love about Mexico? Because as you know that we people, I mean, a part of the other thing, we dedicate social media, we like make some videos, so people think, I just, if for just gaining followers and subscribers, you're saying the, I love Mexico, I love Mexico. No, Habibi, I just want to say one thing. I am in Spanish they say, soy fiel amante de este lugar. O sea, I am like a very humble and very much sincere lover of this country, because this country has given me food, the life. To be honest, I came here, I was just like 19, 20 years old. So the main teaching of my life, the practical life, I started here in Mexico. So this country has given me a lot, bro, in sense of like lot of good, wonderful people, wonderful teachings of life, and I, with the country, I able to help my family, myself. So yeah, man, I just love this place. And more, a part of the other thing, like the cherry in the cake, is like with the country has such a good people, bro. I have met a lot of wonderful people here, and they never ever let me feel that I am in a foreign country.
One type of Mexican food that was your favorite?
Oh yeah, bro. Well, Mexican food, Mexican, if I'm not wrong, the Mexican cuisine is in the top of the world.
Yeah.
Because to be honest, if you ever know, let me tell you, Mexican cuisine is like part of the, how it says, the patrimony of
Yeah, like
the
the tradition.
traditional,
Yeah.
bro. It's one of the cuisine approved by UNESCO, that this cuisine is one of the most like oldest civilization, and a lot of history. Most favorite dish should be barbacoa.
Mm,
Mexican barbacoa. I tell
yeah.
you one thing. I thought in your last trip to Mexico,
Yeah.
you have missed out Hidalgo, the state of Hidalgo.
I missed a
Bro,
lot, actually.
come here, Mexico, bro. I
Yeah.
will take you to the Hidalgo. There's a famous, how you say that, the ranch in Hidalgo,
Yeah, yeah.
in village side. It's called Actopan. In Actopan, 5 in the morning, even before the sunrise, they took you go to the place where they came out like the fresh barbacoa in the leaves of penca, is the how is it, the tequila, the maguey leaves.
Yeah.
You will see by yourself the barbacoas coming away in tens and 20 of kilos, bro. So yeah, they make the fresh meat. They give you the very first broth of the day of
Yeah.
the goat. So has 32 provinces, man, 32. Even bigger than Australia, if I'm not wrong.
Yeah, it is. I mean, I think in terms of landmass, it's smaller, but in terms of diversity and the number of provinces, it's
Bro,
many, many more. Yeah.
exactly, bro. I don't know. Of course, I'm gonna ask you in the podcast as well that
Mm.
you visit Chiapas, right?
Yes, I did. Yeah.
Okay. Chiapas is some different stuff. It's different language, different people. So
Yeah.
yeah, I'm gonna ask you about that. But in Mexico, where the places I have been, like 20 states so far in Mexico. Out of 32, I have been to 20,
Okay.
and all 20 states have different styles. If you allow me, I will share you the accent. In
Yeah,
Mexico
sure.
City,
Go for it, please. Please.
in Mexico City, it's like, I mean, if you ask in the morning, "Vángale, pásale, jefa, ¿qué pasó? Saludos, ya sabe, ya se la sabe." It's more like, I mean, funnier style in Mexico City.
And I
If you
actually
go,
recognize that, to be honest, from some friends of mine from
exactly,
Mexico
bro.
City and from when I was there. So yeah.
See,
Yeah.
exactly. I mean, it's like, I mean, ya se la sabe, hermano. Is they're like singing in the way, in
True.
the talking. If
Yeah.
you go to the north side in Mexico, where the most I identify as a norteño Mexican,
Yeah.
here the style is different, bro. Here they says, ¿qué pasa, compa? ¿Qué onda? ¿Qué pedo, güey? O sea, they will like take their time to say the word, but you know
Yeah.
what? Okay. Arre con la que barre, compa. Fierro pariente. Fierro con los
Oh,
300. And they were, I mean, Mexico is so diverse, to be
it
honest.
is. Yeah, it seriously is. And actually, and that brings me to my next question. If you wanted to see the real Mexico, do you feel that
Okay.
that's in Mexico City, or do you have to get out of Mexico City?
Well. This is the question
Yeah.
that probably gonna put me in some sort of, no, I don't see in trouble.
Yeah.
Mexican people, half of Mexican people think the other way,
Mm,
but the very good question, being a foreigner as myself as well, I will tell you something. If you really want to enjoy the Mexico, the real colors of Mexico, I mean, to be honest, what are the basic things? When someone say Mexico, the first thing came into mind, bro. It's like tequila, mariachi, music, tacos, chili, something like that.
Yeah.
So, in my case, you should visit Jalisco, the state of Jalisco, where is Guadalajara. Guadalajara, to be honest, is like what Lahore is for Pakistan, Guadalajara is for Mexico. You know, I mean,
Like
this
it's
is the
like
heart
the
of
cultural
the
capital.
this is the heart of the country, bro.
Yeah.
You should go. You should go there. You should visit by yourself Guadalajara, because I've been to Guadalajara for 6 months. I lived there, and
Look
yeah,
at
man,
that. Yeah.
yeah, the typical Mexican vibe, because the artists, Mexican famous artists are from there. Tequila is from there. Mariachis is from there.
Okay.
Menudo, some of the difficult Mexican dishes, typical Mexican dishes are from the Guadalajara state of Jalisco.
You've lived in Mexico City for a while.
Yeah.
What would be your top 2 or 3 things to do in Mexico City if I was visiting again?
Okay. Well, I lived in Mexico City. Brother, actually, you know what? Mexico City is such a big, huge city, man. Is one of the biggest in the world. So, there's not such one thing that you should visit. I mean, if you come to Mexico City, 2 to 3 different things. What I recommend you is, first thing is you must take a tour bus. The tour bus that you take you to the places, the quite like sightseeing places in Mexico City. You will go through like the Zocalo, famous Mexico City downtown. Then it take you to the Chapultepec Park. A lot of people don't know the Chapultepec Park in Mexico City is bigger than the Central Park of New York, man. So
Seriously?
yeah, it's
Okay.
even bigger, man. It's
I've
even
never been to
wider.
New York, actually. I don't think they would let me in. But I think with my passport and the stamps that I've got in my passport. So,
Why?
like, okay, so I have an Australian passport, and that's obviously a privilege. But then, as well as that, I've got like, 1,500 stamps in there from
Why? Why? Why?
Pakistan, Iran, Iraq,
Why?
Syria, Lebanon, Nicaragua,
Bro,
Mexico, Bangladesh. Like, honestly, if they look at my passport, I think they're going to be like, oh, welcome, you're an Australian, welcome to the United States. Why were you in Iran? And why have you got like 10 stamps for Pakistan? Finally, when we were in Mexico City together and we caught up with Andrea, and Andrea is going to be joining me on this vlog next week, actually. So for everyone watching, yep, join me then. But when we were there, we tried some Mexican food. And
oh
so,
yeah.
do you want to have a bit of a chat about that? Because I can't even remember what we ate that time.
Oh yeah. Well, the only time I met, bro, we ate like tacos. It's called actually.
Yeah,
What it says? The dish we ordered there. It's alambre.
alambre.
Mexican alambre is like, I mean, they give you, I mean, the platter with some sort of like half 500 grams of meat. I mean the rice. In Mexico, it's another funny thing. They call it bistec, but it's, what the origin of bistec?
It's French, right?
No, actually, it's a Mexican version of saying beef steak.
Yeah, but I think I knew that, but I think it's the same in French. So I don't know. I learned French for 4 years when I was in school, and I
Ah,
don't
yeah,
know
man,
anything. But
for
yeah, it
sure.
is basically like bistec is beefsteak. Yeah, yeah.
No, for sure, man. Actually, French used to rule in over Mexico. Probably
Maybe
they got
that's part of. Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
probably.
So we had the
But
Alhambra.
yeah, sorry,
We had the Alhambra.
alambre.
Alhambra. Okay.
Yeah. But the other thing that really, I mean, like, I was very excited you to try was nopales,
I loved
And
them.
nopales, bro, you remember the taste? I mean, it's cactus. Literally, it's cactus, bro. You're eating the cactus.
But it works. Like, it just
Yeah.
works. I can't tell you. It's like, I mean, I'm pretty open-minded with tasting different things anyway. But honestly, like, anyone out there who's watching this, cactus in Mexico as food, can recommend. Like, it's really,
Exactly.
really good. Yeah.
Bro, cactus is not just like, I mean, the try is not just like a delicacy. It's actually the survival food, I mean, so somehow if you are in desert or some place where you don't find water, it gives you water. I mean, because
Right,
the
yeah.
tuna, the fruit is called tuna, and the tuna
Yeah,
fruit
yeah, yeah, yeah.
outside, bro, it's so delicious, it's so
Yeah.
fresh. And then the cactus itself, man, if you find the real one, you can cut out the spines and you can eat by yourself, man. It's literally like, I mean, the survival instinct thing in the desert, bro.
The flavor reminded me a little bit of pindi, which is okra.
Ah, yeah.
Like the flavor and the texture, I guess. Like it's a little bit slimy and it
Ah,
sort of
yeah.
tastes vegetable-y, but not too strong. Like I really liked it actually. And that's something that I wish that I had discovered that earlier in my time while I was in Mexico City, because I mean I was walking around and tasting the food. Oh my God, the food in
Yeah,
Mexico City, the tacos on the street. Like
bro.
I Mexico City was okay. So one thing was that Mexico City was a lot more expensive than I thought it was going to be. When I got there, I was kind of like, oh wow, these are almost the same prices as I would pay in Melbourne in Australia. So that kind of shocked me. But the exception to that was like tacos and street food, and
Uh,
they are so good. There is a reason why people go crazy for tacos, and I mean, I've always loved tacos, but when you get to Mexico City, that's like a new level unlock.
Mexico City, you know what is has a lot to offer,
Mm,
because it's like, I mean, what should I say? It's like when someone talk about Pakistan, the first thing that came into mind, something a part of the other things, bro. It's
yeah,
like Lahore. I mean, you know that the culture. I mean, the people, the mosques, the culture, the colors. So in this case, I would say Karachi is like Mexico City.
I was
I mean,
just thinking that. Yes,
yeah,
yeah,
you go
yeah,
to Karachi, you probably not gonna find the real essence of Pakistan,
no,
because it's a huge city, it's a
yeah,
metropolitan city. But still, in this case, you would what do you find? The good taste, the lot of different cultures, even from Pakistan and outside Pakistan, like Afghani people,
yeah,
Bengali people, even those South Indian, some Tamil
yeah,
people.
yeah,
So they were like mixing and selling their food,
yeah,
correct,
yeah.
like that. Mexico City is actually like that, because even though the people of, what they call the people of Mexico City, they
There's a
call
name for
chilangos.
them,
There's as chilangos.
right? And what? Why? And what does that mean?
Well, there's a debate about the stuff. Chilangos. This is Mexico. The people in Mexico City are chilangos, but the people of Mexico City, the people born here, are not chilangos. They are called capitalanos, or like, I mean, the
Right, from the capital.
capital.
Yeah, yeah,
The thing that I really love about the Mexican people is they are so united. I mean, they are always very passionate about their country or their culture. But the thing that all sometime, little pisses me out off
mm,
is they are so passionate about their culture and the people, that whenever whatever they're saying about their Mexican, doesn't matter. Even a Mexican guy is saying bull crap, I mean, about Mexico. But when a foreigner try to say something about Mexico, Habibi,
they unite.
is the
Yeah.
bistec time, bistec.
Yeah, yeah, exactly, exactly. No, it's true. I mean, I've known lots of Mexicans, and it's true. It's like, a lot of it's similar to how people are with their parents, or their own family, that it's like, I can complain about it, but if someone else says it, then they're ready to defend.
Yeah.
And it's true. Speaking of nationalism, well, actually, let me rephrase that. Speaking of, I guess, national pride, maybe not nationalism. You recently went to the Independence Day celebration in the Zocalo.
Yeah, bro. Bro, if you really want to enjoy the Mexican pride, what they say in Spanish, el orgullo mexicano,
Mm,
you will come to the Grito, the Independence Day, the ceremony here,
yeah,
because the Mexican Independence Day is 16th of September.
yeah,
But in the night before, in 15th, the president came specially towards the Zocalo,
mm,
and I mean, they were like, I mean, shouting the Mexican pride, Viva Mexico, and all the war heroes, all the independence hero of Mexico. They're remembering the people. There's a concert right before the ceremony. They were the lot of famous bands of Mexico. They play music, and then afterward, it's like fireworks. But the thing is, you will see millions of people standing there for like 5 hours or more, bro.
mm,
And they were like, just for the love. Every year, it's raining in the day, and people still in there with their umbrella. Some are without umbrella, and they were like, I mean, enjoy the parade. It ends like midnight at 12 o'clock. So people still there, man.
Yeah.
And for grabbing the best place in there, the people came like 12 in the afternoon, man. So they were like all day standing there and enjoying there the what's going on, bro. And this year, because I went there, because this was the first in the history of Mexico, first grito of a woman president, because in that it was like 215th anniversary of Mexico. So in 215 years, they never ever had a woman as a president.
Yeah.
So it was something crazy, because I've seen a lot of people there. I was not feeling good, but still to have the moment, because probably in the next year I'm here, I'm not here. So I don't know. So that's why I was like, okay, let's
Yeah,
do it.
exactly. Yeah. No, you have to, I mean, you have to do it once, and especially, I mean, you are Habibi Mexicano. So, I mean, obviously you have to be there.
Sure.
Dude, thank you so much for being here. And, honestly, it means so much that you joined me on my first vlog here of Latin
Yeah.
America Diaries. And honestly, like seeing you and Andrea in Mexico City that time, it was. It felt like completing the circle in a way, because I had just landed in Latin America
Yeah.
and I was still kind of finding my feet. And I had a couple of other friends to meet, and that was really cool. But, to see you guys and catch up with you on my last night there before I headed south and began like my journey through all of Latin America, I was just like, we've been in contact for so long and we've
Yeah.
never met. We almost met in 2022 in Rawalpindi, and then
Yeah.
a flood, came down, like a deluge came down on the city, and we got stranded and we
Exactly.
couldn't meet. And then you were flying out the next day. So like having you, Andrea, and myself all at the same table that time, it was just it was so nice. And I thank you for coming all the way down, because you weren't living in Mexico City at that time. You were out of the city and you came all the way down for it. So thank you so much.
No, no,
And
no.
I hope that we can meet again soon.
For sure, man. Hopefully, the moment you told me that you will be in Mexico City that time, I was like around 4 hours from Mexico City. It's
Yeah,
little by ranch. I living in the village in Mexico rural side.
cool.
So I thought this time it should be, man. I'm not gonna miss this time. It
Yeah,
should be. I have to meet my friend, and my brother is came here, and yeah, man. So that's why, because we were like in contact pre-COVID,
yeah, yeah.
2019 probably.
Yeah, it was around that time, because I remember you were maybe
I was in
visiting or like Yucatan around that time, or maybe you were in Veracruz or
I was
something.
in Veracruz, man. I was
Veracruz,
having
yeah,
in my restaurant business. I was there in 2019,
yeah,
and
I remember.
yeah, that's that you contacted me and said, "Yeah, man, come around." Because to be honest, at that time I didn't have any plan to go back Pakistan any soon. But one thing, as you tell, that one thing is you plan, the other thing in the guys have he plans. So yeah, the plan of the God was always you have to accept.
No, we had to
So
meet in Mexico City. It was meant to be.
it was meant to be, bro.
Yeah,
To be honest,
and it was fun too. Well, we are going to do this again sometime. Absolutely.
man.
Habibi, my friend, my brother, Osman, we are going to be in touch, but thank you so much. And yeah, thanks for joining us here on Latin America Diaries. Catch you next time.
Sure thing, brother. Pleasure.
Habibi Mexicano has published 2 videos of our night in Mexico City, so I've linked them in the video description below, and for more amazing content about Mexico, please subscribe to his channel. Unfortunately, when I was in Mexico City this time, I didn't get to Teotihuacan, the Pyramid of the Sun. It's the grandest and foremost remaining Aztec site. But the reason I didn't get there was because on one of my first days in Mexico City, I was invited to participate in a parade celebrating the Day of the Dead in the center of the city. It was an event that I will never forget and which really set the tone for the rest of my trip in Latin America. Want to know more? Make sure that you subscribe, because that is in next week's episode of Latin America Diaries.